Okay, so once you have your background done, you're gonna start working on your actual shape. So now I'm using my green. I'm gonna switch to my smaller brush, which is, actually you guys have these two. So I would definitely recommend sticking to just the flat brushes. I would not use the round brushes unless you like really need to get into like little corners. But for the first coat, I would probably just stick with one of the flat brushes. So you wanna make sure you're looking at your reference photo and look at where the dark area is. So here I would do some green mixed with red and then let that come down a little bit and get lighter. Here I would do white mixed with green. And then, so here is probably where I want my hue, my just pure green. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some green on my brush. Now we're doing wet blending. Let me make sure I have this facing the right way. Okay, we're doing wet and wet blending in terms of the green, but we're doing wet on dry to get the edges crisp. So I'm gonna use the edge of my bristles to get that nice straight line. And as I go down this way, I'm adding a little bit of white. So I could start that now. Pick up some more green. Oops. Butterfingers. And rotate the painting depending on, you know, what feels comfortable for you. Okay. A little bit more white as I work my way down. And if some of your lines are really hard to see before you start this step, you can go back in with a ruler and kind of darken them again if you need to. But we don't really want to be able to see the pencil lines when you're done. Pick up some white here, go right into that corner. I got a little bit of green on my brush still, and then as I work my way down, it'll blend here. And my palette right now is a mess because I have all those extra colors on it, but you could mix up some of your tints ahead of time to help you, so it's not just like where you're not really having to do all of the mixing on your paper, but you will find the best thing that works for you. So I'm holding my brush perpendicular to the line that I drew and letting those bristles give me that nice straight edge. That's why using the square brush is good at this point. So as you're working on this step, it's okay to, you know, get like kind of like a lot of paint on here. I'll make it more opaque. And more green. Because as we discovered when we were doing our value scale, the green is very translucent, right? Not as translucent as the purple, but pretty translucent. And if you have too much paint on your brush and it's not blending because you have too much going on the brush, just wipe it off. And then it'll be easier to blend in your new paint with what you already have on the illustration board. Okay, so then up here is going to be my darker area, so I'm going to want to add in a little bit of red there. So I'm going to put some green down, pick up a smidge of red, and we'll see how dark we need to go there. And what's good about acrylic paint is once it dries, it doesn't get reactivated, you know, like watercolor paint does. So if you do something that you're not totally happy with, don't worry about it, just let it dry, and then you can just cover it. So it's a forgiving in a different way than watercolor is. Just block in some more of that green, sort of as a base coat. So precision on the edges is key, and to do that effectively, unfortunately, folks, it's one of those things that just takes practice. So you'll get it. But I like to hold the brush perpendicular to the line, and that helps me get a crisp line. And then I go back over this way. Okay, so that's splotchy, right? That's not cute. So we're gonna let that dry, and then I'll go back in and build this up and get this a little bit darker and get a better blend over there, okay? So let's not get lost here, which is easy to do with these things. So we've tint to hue to shade. So here we're gonna go light and then out to the hue. And if you want to jot those notes down too, you could write like a little H there, a little T there, or whatever. Give yourself some tips or some little cheat sheets. Okay, so that's the process. You just keep on building up those layers and developing your values. So like as I go here, right, because this corner needs to be a hue, I want to look at it in relation to what I just painted above, and then figure out, ooh, do I need to go darker here to get a little bit more contrast? And you know, it's sort of what we've been talking about all year, where when we are looking at value, we're looking at value in relation to the things around it. So object versus background, or when objects overlap, and like which one's darker than the other one, and how do we get them to stand out. So it's sort of the same process here. So I'm going to go a little bit darker up here, and you can see just with that second coat like how much better that looks. Holy moly, so much better, right? Okay, so if I go here again, now there's a little bit more contrast between this part and this part, right? And then I can go this way, and I'm gonna get a little lighter, but I'm gonna go lighter than this, right? This should be lighter than this area. So I could pick up my white. And you can see I keep rotating. You don't wanna put your hand in a part that you just painted, because there's nothing worse than smudging paint of something you just carefully painted. Anybody that, you know, paints their nails knows how that feels, right? So just be careful of where you are and where your hand is resting. If you have like an old like iPad stand or something, you could prop this up sort of like on an easel, and then you kind of avoid that problem. Acrylic paint does dry kind of fast, so that's why it's important that you keep it covered. So your original little cups that I gave you of the paint, that's why I want you to scoop from them and then keep them covered. That way, if this paint, like, just take out a little bit at a time. When this dries up, you're not like wasting a whole bunch of paint that dried up, okay? And you can also give your paint a little spritz of water as you're working, like if you have a little spray bottle, and also before you put it away to help preserve the paint. Okay, so, and I don't want to play too much again because you can end up peeling up some of the paint you just put down. This is dry, so I can go back over this area and get this a little bit neater. So when we're blending the values to create a smooth gradient or smooth transition, that is called wet and wet. And when we want those really crisp lines, that's wet on dry, where we let the background or the area next to it dry so that we can get those crisp edges. Okay. And that is your Penrose Square painting sort of demo in a nutshell. Okay, so at this point I do have a lot of white here. I squeezed out a lot of white. Probably shouldn't have done that, but that's okay. So I'm going to cover this with my plastic lid that comes with my kit. Okay, and that way I can save my paint and keep it fresh. You can, if you don't have anything mixed in here, you can even put a damp paper towel, like fold it up and put it in the center, or like I said, squirt it with a little spray bottle. And then the plastic lid just goes right on top and it'll keep your paint fresh for tomorrow. Okay, again at this point we want to talk about cleaning our brushes. So this is messy water, so you're going to clean out your brush as best you can in this water. Okay, dry it off, go to your sink, put a little bit of dish soap in your hand. Okay, go like this, swirl around in the dish soap, and then rinse it under clean, cold, running water. We don't want to use warm or hot water because it can actually dissolve the glue that is holding your bristles together. We also don't want to store our brushes in the water because again, it could dissolve the glue. So we want to clean our brushes and then leave them to dry, bristle side up. So thanks for watching this demo. I hope you have fun painting your impossible squares here. We make sure you do your value scale in your sketchbook first of the 2 different colors that you've selected. Paint your background first, let it dry, do a second coat, blend, wet and wet blending for the background, paint close to the edge. You can go over that pencil line a little bit, let it dry completely, and then you start your object and pay attention to the values that you see on your object. Okay? So have fun, happy painting, and I can't wait to see when these are all finished. Good luck.